Well, hello, everybody. Today's guest is Betty Hines. She is the CEO and founder of W.E.W, which is Women Elevating Women. Betty, tell us more about you.
About me, why women elevating women? It was a vision that I had several years ago, for over 20 something years, working with women who were entrepreneurs and executives. And I saw some characteristics that we were lacking. So I had a powwow with my advisors at this time, my family advisors, my son and my daughter. And they said, they came up with women elevating women. And so that's how we came with women elevating women, because I wanted to continue to elevate women.
Mhm.
And I had served in roles as a C-suite executive, as an entrepreneur, and then now as a consultant. And I consider myself a servant leader to women who are entrepreneurs and executives. I just don't want them to make the same missteps I made when I was in those career paths.
Yeah, and so you also started the collaborative pathways. So,
Collaborative Pathways was our conference.
okay,
And yes, that was our conference, the Collaborative Pathways. We our five pillars. Each time we do a conference, we'll take one of our pillars,
okay,
and collaboration is one of our pillars. So we had our domestic conference here in the DC area, and it was Collaborative Pathways. And we allowed the women to all get together in this conference, along with our sponsors, JP Morgan Chase, and we had some other key sponsors. And they had a chance to interact, tell their experiences, tell their stories, and also make their ask. So that's the collaborative pathways, because I'm a firm believer that in order for you to have a pathway to scale, you're not going to do it by yourself. You need to
yeah,
do one of those pillars, and collaboration is one of them.
awesome. So, what are the other four?
We also have connect.
Okay,
I'm a true believer that the connections that you make, those strategic introductions, are imperative also for you to soar. I don't care your credentials. Many times it's who you know. And that's not a bad thing,
hmm
because that person has already done the vetting. So if you get that warm, friendly introduction, or that connection
yeah,
or connect, that gives you a better opportunity to move forward. And then we
absolutely.
have
Oh, and before you go
communicate.
on to the other one, I just wanted to make a comment. So I fully agree with you as far as, who you know. I tell my son is who knows you as well,
Exactly.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And to everything that you said, because when they know you, they know your worth. They know, your work ethics. They know a lot of things about you that they can go and speak on your behalf when you are around
Yes.
and when you're not around. So yes,
Yes.
connections is very key.
And I'm sure you've heard what people said, that your network is your net worth.
Yes.
So that's all part of our connect pillar. And another area that I find that is needed is the communicate pillar. The communicate pillar really falls in the area of branding, and people, we stay away from the personal branding. And it's important to have the personal branding to identify who you are and what your business is about. And you align your business values with that personal brand. And you want people to be able to tell that story. We don't do that well. And simple things like I tell women too, I said, I have several different emails, which is not a good thing, but I do. But there is one that I have for my business, which is Betty at BettyHines.com. And I said, just spend those extra nickels. And you can have the Yahoo and the Gmail for family, but get that business account. So little things like that,
Mhm.
like don't use a selfie as your profile. That's fine for family uh, notifications, but just some tips that we just need to do better at in terms of branding. And
Yes.
then I have courage. Huge on this, and it really came into light, the courage part, because it's the courage to take care of your health and your wealth. And then during the COVID, oftentimes the women, I don't care if you are an entrepreneur or an executive, oftentimes that was an added responsibility for you. I had executives and I had entrepreneurs saying, oh my God, see why I'm not a teacher, because they're having to, kids were at home and they're preparing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Well, normally they just pack at lunch or have someone else pack the lunch, which was another barrier, because you weren't having people coming into your house, those who had support in that way, and also support in cleaning. They found themselves doing all of that. And so that's why and then mentally. I mean, women, we like to be social. You can't get out, you're stuck in the four walls, you're pulling out your hair, like, what am I going to do?
Right.
So it was important that we take care of our health, Because if we don't take care of our health, who's going to take care? And then the wealth. These women make a lot of money. And so you need to leave that legacy. And so we bring people in the areas that I'm not the expert, and there's many of them. We bring in experts like EFPs and the people in the financial services, help them make a planning, and also with their business needs, getting
Very
that access to capital, making sure they understand what are you trying to access. Maybe you just need to go get a small business bank loan. And then the last one is cultivate. And we believe the cultivate pillar is about reaching back to the youth. So in each one of my groups that I facilitate, I gift a membership to a nonprofit because you see all those 5 characteristics that I've labeled. I've seen those 5 in successful executives and successful entrepreneurs. We try to mirror that.
Very good. So we have collaborate, connect, courage, and cultivate. So those are the 5 pillars, and that's what you kind of build your pathways around. What's
Exactly.
planned for this year for 2023?
It's going to be connect.
Okay.
And the connectors, we've had tremendous success in partnering with other organizations, women organizations. We've connected with Women Presidents Organization. And that's a global group, women doing 24 billion. We've connected with Fearless Commerce, which is based in Minnesota. Dynamic women. These are women in 6 figures that she does like a directory to connect them globally with business opportunities. We're now just signed a MOU with Women Business Collaborative, and they are a global organization with very successful women entrepreneurs and executives. We have Grow Your Biz, which is based in Canada. And we also have another one that we've not quite signed the MOU on, but it's in Dubai. And then we have another organization that's Canadian Black women in business. So we have those organizations because I think it's important that we do that connection outside of I always tell people, get outside your zip code.
Yes. No, for sure.
Yes, yes. So that's what the whole premise is. We want people to get outside there, and that's what the connect is all about. And we bring those women for the sole purposes to connect.
Now, will that also be in the DC area?
No, this year it's going to be because we are a feeder program into Women Presidents Organization.
Okay.
So the conference will be in Seattle.
Okay.
Excuse me, not Seattle. Why am I thinking Seattle? It's in Las Vegas, and that is May 10 through 13 in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we were talking about time zones earlier, so
I know. I'm like, now where am I? Yeah, no, it's in Las Vegas.
Where is it?
And our domestic conference, though, we have a domestic conference, and our domestic conference will be in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and that's in September. That's September 13th through the 15th.
Okay. So now the podcast, An Intimate Conversation with Women of Color, is focused on women of color. Now, of course, the 5 pillars that you just mentioned, that applies to, all women. It applies to men as well. But I want to really focus in on women of color. So how does your event, how does your pillars and everything else that you're doing, how can women of color tap into their power and voice?
They can tap into their power and voice, because what I found and why I selected those 5 pillars, because there'll be other characteristics, but those were the 5 pillars that I saw align themselves with women of color. And also for what I call the people like to say the disadvantage, I say the underestimated community. It's for women of color that are that 88% who are not at that $1 million threshold, because that's only like about all women. That number is hovering around 3%. And if you break it out by ethnicity, we are a smaller percentage of that. So and I don't like to use the word get stuck, but where we get lost in the shuffle is in that 6 figures and trying to raise it to the next level. And that's that $1 million threshold. So that is where those pillars align themselves very nicely, because one of the things that we don't do well, I mentioned earlier, is collaborate. And if you take a look at a lot of individuals, they don't get it done on their own. It's through the collaboration. And these are skills that are taught that we don't learn, we don't know about. We're used to just keeping our head down, plowing away and getting it done. But if you share that information, what are you going to do? And I tell people, I'm not that auntie that's going to take the sweet potato pie recipe to my grave.
Right.
Share your knowledge and your experiences. And that is what I try to encourage and show by example individuals who've done the collaboration. And also, the business connection. You know people like right now, you know people that I know people, and then we do those introductions for those each other, make those connections. And that's not something that we're taught. It's like, well, I got mine. No, to me, it's a very good feeling in the giving back. And so that's where that helps us. And so we do a lot of it. And on the branding side, we tend to be very humble, and it could be very of our upbringing. We don't like to say, yeah, I got selected on this board, or we go, yeah, I got very humble on the board. So I know that some of us don't do that well. I'm your biggest cheerleader. I and it's like you have to tell me if you want something. I want to know. But you can't be a secret agent.
Right.
People need to know about what you do, and then until you gain more confidence. Now I say that, and I need to take my own medicine because I am working better at that. But that's why I have an advisory board, and I have an advisor to the CEO. So find yourself somebody that will do that for you, because some people call it bragging
Hmm.
for women and for women of color. They don't call it bragging for men and being boastful. It's so we need to learn how to do that where we're comfortable in doing it as well, especially if you're talking fact. So those sort of pillars are what I bring to us. And then also the cultivate. We need to continue to grow up our young sisters and brothers. Why not have them come to work with you one day? Get involved in those organizations that STEM groups or string groups that are trying to cultivate the youth. Give them some of that support. So, and then on the courage, we don't do well. We're always taking care of everybody else. We might take a loan for the college, kids go to college, but we don't do enough in terms of making sure we are self-sufficient when everybody else is gone. And so that is why I bring in the CFPs and the CPI. Sit down with them and put your plan together. We don't do that. We don't do enough of that. And these are some of the basic fundamentals that our women need to mind and need to embrace, implement them in their daily life.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on all of that. Going back to the collaborative piece, I'm definitely a person who champions others, right? So I definitely believe in sharing what other people are doing, pushing them probably, beyond where they were thinking
Mm-hmm.
to do, right? It's just natural for me. I will also admit that I wasn't really one who asked for help a lot,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
is truly, truly a missed opportunity. Now I'm
Mm-hmm.
leaning into it more. I coach, I also have a coach, right? So I believe in all of that. And like you said, mentors and mentoring, giving back and showing up for others, we definitely need to do that. And we need to do that for ourselves first, and then lean into and open it up to other people. So
I
absolutely.
agree. I agree. We can get better at that. So you can lead my way now that I'm on here. I will be definitely publishing about your podcast, the network that I have. Let them listen in.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I appreciate it because that's what we need to do for one another.
Mm-hmm.
What it doesn't hurt. What does it take away from you?
Yeah,
As you were talking
nothing.
about earlier, it takes nothing away from you. As a matter of fact, it also, boosts you as well, right? Because people, when
Mm-hmm.
we do for others or when we share, people are like, oh, look at that person, look what they're doing for others, right? How generous, let me work with that particular person, right? Because they have no problem with working with other people and sharing a spotlight with other people. And so when we do more of that, we encourage other people to do the same. We give people permission to do the same.
We do. And that's just an act of kindness, and
Yes.
that's gratitude. And I think that if we operate more on that kindness and gratitude, then, I don't want to sound so cliche, it'll be a better world.
Right.
But as
But it will.
women in our community, we need to be kind. We can be a
Yes,
little brutal sometimes. You know?
absolutely. No, and it's funny, two things you said, and it's just so coincidental because today on LinkedIn, a lot of people were posting different things about kindness. So sharing that about
Oh,
kindness, like, yes, just different people, unrelated, they were talking about kindness. But the other thing that really struck for me is when you talked about getting your board, getting your advisors. I actually posted a throwback today from one of my friends, and we talked about building your board. So your
Yes.
board of advisors, your mentors. So I reposted today. That was a throwback from my episode for today. So for you
Uh-huh.
to mention that is truly in alignment, right? Because we need other people with us, and we need their wisdom, right? We need to learn
Absolutely.
from them, and different people, because you didn't say get one person. You said
Mm-mm.
board, that's several people, but
That
you
is.
you need other people to tap into you and lean into what it is, that they have to offer.
And
So
you would be surprised. A lot of the women that I've asked, I asked them because I've known them, and they go, "Yeah, sure, I would love to." And I'm startled, but genuinely speaking, they want help. They want to help. They want to
yeah,
share their knowledge and share their gifts. But I encourage every woman, if you yourself, I'm glad to hear that you're thinking about the board. It's okay. It's okay, and it's advisable. Get someone else to bounce that idea off. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to pivot a little bit. So I honor my late sister, author and poet Soul True, by asking about dreams deferred, which is the title of one of her books. Please share a dreams deferred moment.
My dream deferred moment is that I should have made that leap of faith into entrepreneurship a lot sooner. I went into corporate America and was quite successful. And then had its trials and tribulations, but came to learn. But we just didn't do that. In my age group, we just didn't, start a business. Are you kidding me? What about this? You didn't think about that. So I wish I had done that earlier. So that's a dream deferred. But right now, I'm living my dream. So
Awesome.
it's no longer deferred. And it doesn't have to be deferred because what people don't understand, and I'm not saying this is everybody else's dream,
Right.
you know, but I did the corporate thing for a lot of reasons. I had responsibility, and you don't make all the excuses. I had
Mhm.
2 kids, and so I did the corporate, but that was a dream deferred. But I'm there now, and was just put on pause.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a period; it was a comma. So
Mm.
now,
So now, why do you wish you would have done it sooner?
um, because it takes time to grow
Mm.
your business. Um, you might have a lot of resources and business connections, but there's so many learning experiences and certifications, and you have to wade through those. Not everybody needs all the certifications. So it's the learning process and learning how to navigate. I had enough experience in a corporate America, nonetheless, really segued right into the entrepreneurship, but I had that fear.
Okay.
And so a lot of it has to do, my dream deferred is because I didn't have the confidence. And that's
Got
why it's
it.
important to surround yourself around people who have confidence in you.
Hmm.
Because sometimes, well, for me, I won't speak for everyone. People say, you didn't have confidence. No, I'm scared. But then I had individuals, and it was the women that I have in my groups that I facilitate that said, like, you should be doing this.
Hmm.
Let us help you. This is what you should be doing. So that was it. And so now I'm like, this is what I'm doing. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? And I want to just point something out. I was having a conversation with someone yesterday, and we were kind of talking about the same thing, as far as, the deferment sometimes is because it's just not the right time, and or there's more for you to learn. And so I'm just wondering and thinking there may have been more for you to learn, right?
Oh,
And
sure.
so it happened when it happened, because that's when it was supposed to happen. And so we can look at dreams deferred that way, like, okay, like you said, it wasn't a period. It was just, it was maybe
Mhm.
some dots. It was a comma,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's really dots, like, okay, to be
Yeah.
continued, right? And
Exactly.
so, and you're loving it and you're living your dream, which is kind of segueing into the next one, so I empower women of color to live a dream lifestyle. And and so live was my word for 2022. And then live a dream lifestyle was my focus. And so for me, the main component of that is travel. So I started traveling, and sharing it with other people. Again, that whole thing, sharing yourself with folks and encouraging and motivating them and giving them permission to do the same things. But anyway, so I wanted to do that for other women. I wanted to empower other women to do the same thing, for them not to wait until, let's say, retirement to start living, but
Mhm.
start living now. What does this mean to you? And beyond, WEW, how are you living a dream lifestyle?
Well, my lifestyle is because I'm an empty nester. And so my husband and I, we travel. We do
Yes.
staycations. It might be just right down the street.
Right.
And just to be away, because I find that if I know somewhere near the computer, I'm gonna hop on it. It's learning to cut that time out. So we do travel. We love to travel. So that's living my dream. Plus, also for me, my husband is retired, except he's got his honey-do list that he has to do. But retirement is not part of my vocabulary.
Mm,
If you sit back and you take a look at some of the people, women who have, I look at we call her Mother Maxine, being in the DC area, she's still doing it in her 80s and
yeah.
making an impact. So, I step back and look, and it's, I guess, your body, and for her, it's not, for finances, but she has joy in doing that. So my living my dream is doing something that I enjoy
Yeah.
doing until it's time for me to say no more. It might be I might decide to just not decide, but I'm working on, if I do no longer woo, I'll maybe be chairman and then sit on some for-profit boards
Hmm.
and still travel. So my dream is keeping that activity going and keeping myself aware and on top of my game, because there's always that knowledge that I can pass on to the younger ones. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? And sometimes the retiring is you retire from that thing to something else.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so one of the CEOs, so I did retire in June. So for me, retired from that thing. And
Hmm.
so saying goodbye to that. But one of our CEOs, she actually calls it rewirement. So she is
Yes,
in her rewirement phase, which I love that
I've
idea.
heard that. Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And the woman that I mentioned whose episode that I was a throwback for today, same thing with her. She's like, yeah, I didn't
Hmm.
retire, I'm rewiring. So
Yes.
that's the way to look at it, right? Because we don't stop, right? When
Hmm.
people do retire again, they're just leaving that thing. They're saying goodbye to whatever that thing is,
Hmm.
but they don't stop. They keep moving in some direction. And
They
it's just
do.
up to you to choose what direction that is.
Which,
And it could be another job. It could be
mhm.
entrepreneurship. It could just be just traveling full time. So,
And you
or
know what?
nothing at
Ride on the
all.
travel. There's nothing bad about that. That could be a
No,
business. You travel here and say, "Hey, look, I was here. Let me tell you about this restaurant
right?
or site that you saw." So yeah, yes, and I believe, and my mom. I mean, longevity is my family. My mom lived till she was 95. All her sisters lived 95. Her dad was like 2 weeks short of his 101st birthday, but
Wow.
they kept their minds active. Crossword puzzles and reading. 'Cause I believe if you just retire here,
Hmm.
your mind, it just atrophies and there's nothing for you to engage in.
Yes, absolutely. No, you have to keep it moving in some kind of way, as opposed to when I say do nothing, meaning not do nothing, but you
Yeah,
don't have to go to another job. You don't have to, have a
right,
business. You can do other things that are fulfilling, right? That are
right,
fulfilling and keep you thinking and keep you fresh, keep you alive, living.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
before we wrap, what would you like to leave the guests with?
I want to leave them with to keep elevating. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, a college student, keep elevating. Always try to take it up, to not kick it up another level. Because as long as you elevate, you're elevating yourself personally, spiritually, um, professionally. Always elevate yourself and elevate others.
I love that. I thank you so much. So, Betty Hines, thank you so much for your voice today. Thank you for sharing. I love the 5 C's again: collaborate, connect, courage, communicate, courage, and cultivate. Those are definitely great ways and great pillars to live our lives. So, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much. And ask your listeners to they can learn more about me on woocrew.com. That's
Yes.
www.crew.com.
And I will definitely have all of her information, her bio in the show notes. Thank you
Thanks
all.
so much. Thanks for having me.